Good morning and welcome to Facebook Live Wednesday. Mike Doe at Melco, part of the applications team. And today I am joined by my two amigos, Mr. Scott Stingle.
Hello, everybody.
And Mr. Nate Moore doesn't have a mic, so he's going to yell really, really loud.
Hey guys!
There he is. So today we are talking about, I had this great presentation of how I was going to do that, but it didn't really turn out well. The Melco Fast Clamp Pro. Back to school season coming around. Want to give you guys some ideas of some ways to reach out and kind of be proactive to customers that may not know that that you do embroidery or only come to you for shirts. I'm going to give you some additional ideas of how to do some embroidery decoration using my good friend the Melco Fast Clamp here. So without further ado, let's jump into this. Also, before we do that, let me back up a second. Sorry, I'm so excited to talk about this thing. Let's talk a couple things through. Last week we had Chris Fenton talking about the bird's nest kit. This guy here, and I heard I was out of the office, so I didn't get to see it live, but they showed this thing to me, and I told the guys when I saw it, it looked like a teenage pimple kit. Hopefully you guys get some humor out of that as much as I do. Nate is covering his head up, not laughing, but we got to have humor. So I thought this was a Band-Aid. No, it's an actual extra blade. So check out that video from last week. Chris talking about the bird's nest kit. Really useful tool. Outside my joking, it actually is a really good tool to have. And Madeira has got it on special. I'm just looking at my notes here. They have it on special through, let me look at the notes, through the 14th, so August 14th. And for anybody watching this in the future, that's August 14th, 2019. So just so we're clear on that, it's, if you're watching it in like 2023, it's not still on special. It's August 14th, 2019. So reach out to Madeira, check out the bird's nest tool. Very, very useful. Many times I wish I would have had this. Instead, I found like a razor blade from the garage and borrowed my wife's tweezers, and she got mad at me about that. So don't have your wife get mad at you. Get the Madeira bird's nest kit. Watch Chris Fenton. I've heard that it's been a great video. I haven't had the chance to watch it. Bad excuse, but check it out. So there's that. Whoa, there's a line going through that. Okay, now we're back. The other thing, next week, my good friend Scott Stingle, and I believe Nate will be in on this as well, for Facebook Live Wednesday next week, they will be talking about a tool in DesignShop Pro Plus called Alphabet Editor. So this is a tool in DesignShop Pro Plus, so it's our top tier level of our program, Plus, that allows you to either create new alphabets, edit new alphabets, take and modify an existing alphabet. Some really cool stuff that you can do with it, and talking about how you can change the kerning of that. Maybe the end of an E on maybe a script font never attaches to the next letter, and you're like, dude, I need that fixed, so every time I use that from now on. Those guys are going to talk about how to do that stuff in that Pro Plus level. So check it out, and if you don't have the Pro Plus level, you might want to reach out to your salesperson, see how much the upgrade would be. If you're more into the creation, I always like to call the Pro Plus level our creation level of product. A majority of us are editors, not creators, and so we don't need that Pro Plus. But if you're a creator level and you don't have it, give one of the Melco salespeople a call. I believe there's an 800 number. Maybe we can post that 800 number to shout out. So that is kind of getting all that out of the way. Let's go back and let's talk about my friend the Fast Clamp, and try not to make weird noises on the white table here. So this guy here, allows you to do multiple hoopings that, actually it's not hoopings, it's clamping. And a lot of people, I get confused about it sometimes too. So what's the difference between normal hoops and clamps? So let's cover that real quick. The big difference is a hoop is going to have an outer ring and an inner ring, and we're going to push the material in between those two rings. And a clamp is exactly how it sounds, but you're going to have a bottom piece and a top piece, and you're going to pinch the material between those two. So clamp, right, like this, be it a Melco fast clamp, a EMS Hoop Tech Slimline, great product as well. But those are clamps, so they're going to clamp them between usually two flat surfaces. The material is going to be clamped in between that. Where a hoop, we're going to switch it over here, and we're going to have an outer ring and an inner ring, and we're going to hoop that material in between it kind of vertically. So it looks like a shark swimming. No, sorry, I get distracted really easy. But big difference. So now you understand, if you've ever like, wow, what's the difference between hooping and clamping? Think of the shark, or think of, my friend, maybe Cookie Monster or something. So yeah, I don't know why.
Shouldn't it be
Mighty Clamp. Yeah, but Melco sounded better, so we stuck with Melco. Mighty. Yeah, Mighty's. Oh, so you're talking the magnet ones. Yeah, those, but still they kind of follow that. They're kind of like a hybrid between the two. That's a good point, Scott. Yeah, but we put the Mighty hoops. Those are those magnetized ones. We put them in the hoop category just because they're more traditional hooping. But yeah, they do sandwich. Scott's got a point on that. So if you have questions while we're going through this, please post it in the comments. And both gentlemen are on this and answering questions. So let's set this box down. Let's see, where are we going to start? Let's talk about back to school. And back to school, we may have products like backpacks for kiddos, anywhere from kindergarten to college age. I carry a backpack to work still, but putting your fingerprint or having the fingerprint of the customer on this is a great thing. So a great way to advertise yourself is offering personalization for backpacks. And if the customer brings the backpack to you versus you providing the backpack, I would have two different pricing structures. I don't want to get into pricing because everybody's got kind of their own thing. So feel free to post how you would price maybe differently. Someone brings the backpack to you, how much you would charge for the personalization versus you providing the product and the personalization. But anyways, you can see on this guy that we did a real nice deep single letter monogram on it. And we actually did this on a Melco fast clamp. Not to say if I turn this guy this way, actually could we go to the up above? So we're going to look down inside. So once again, here is the front of that. There's an open zipper here, and we can see inside the back side of our monogram. We could have used a hoop possibly, but by doing a hoop, more than likely the size of this, I probably would have had a hoop through this piece of leather, which I never understood what this, it looks like a belt loop, but I don't know what it's for. Is that it? Like a what are those clip things? Carabiners. Thank you, Nate. But anyways, it probably would have to come pretty close to hooping through that. Versus using the clamping system, I can take and use the longer arms. So let me open this guy up real quick. Yeah, you got to get the right side of the box to open it. So with the fast clamp, if you haven't seen one, it comes with 3 different sets of arms. So it comes with the long arms, which is probably what I would use, and that's what we did use for this backpack. It also has a set of medium arms, and I'm going to show you a use for the medium arms here in a minute. and then it's got a set of real short arms. And let me show you another product. We'll just stay up above for a minute. So this is a lunchbox. Once again, a great product for back to school. Everybody's got to take their lunch, or the cafeteria food when I was going to school was pretty good, but then it got kind of bad right at the end. They kind of started slacking off. So I apologize, but maybe your school food is really, really good. But anyways, if you got a kiddo or somebody that is looking to add personalization on a bag, so I can tell my blue bag from your blue bag, this is another way. We use the shorter arms, I think either the short or the mediums on this, to hoop it. Once again, I used hoop to clamp it. So once again, we got our Cookie Monster going up above. So we got that in there. We open it up. Now, when we sew through this, we made this pocket not waterproof. The rest of the lunch bag, the inner part of it, is still waterproof. So we didn't penetrate. Oh, that's where you would put like your chips, wouldn't it? Let me find the zipper for the other part. Wow, it's really on there. Okay, cool. Well, this one is plastic, so definitely wouldn't be sewing through that. But a lot of them are soft-sided, and if you sew through it, so if I took this out like it wasn't there, if we sewed through this and we put ice or any kind of liquids in this, it would leak out, and we would have a sad kid if they put it in their backpack and like their homework got wet, and they would have an excuse why they didn't do their homework. So make sure if you sew through something that is waterproof, re-waterproof it. So you may have to take and use some other adhesive material to re-waterproof that. But in the case of this, you definitely wouldn't be putting liquids up front. So that's really nice about that pocket. But once again, a really good way to offer personalization. And you could either do this through a local newspaper. I'm a part of like a community Facebook page, and you could post something on there that says, hey, kids going back to school need personalization on their products to make sure they don't get lost or confused with others. Give me a shout. So really good way to gain some business by doing that. Some of you may already have that and you're like, Mike, yeah, you're telling me old news. Good for you. You that don't, this is a great idea. So lunch bags, and we're going to talk about, hey, how did you get that placement just right, Mike? I used a fast clamp. I have it now, and I use it, but I have a really hard time struggling going from DesignShop to, that's the creation software or the editing software, to Melco OS, which is the operating software for the machine, to the actual product. The design starts moving around, and I can't figure out how to get the placement right. We're going to talk about that. So if you've already got the fast clamp, we're going to talk about how to use it a little bit more efficiently and be better at placement. So lunch bags, great idea. Backpacks, great idea. There's a lot of money to be made in these if you do it right and you advertise yourself right. So great products. So let's talk about the next product. This is a product that we actually have been doing at our trade shows and our showcases. So if you've come by at one of these, you have probably seen us do these. These are like key fobs. So what we did is we took a piece of 1.5-inch webbing. We purchased that webbing on Amazon, and when I'm done with this Facebook Live, I will post in the comments the link to find this webbing, as well as the hardware to attach a key ring to the webbing. And so then instead of Melco, like we see on this guy, we could do a local school, we could do a local organization, and so we could, for a very minimal amount, we could get these products in, and they make this webbing in multiple different colors. So we could be more oriented to school colors or to organization colors, and we could take the name of the company or the name of the school, we could take and put it on a couple of these key fobs, and we could drop it off at the office and say, hey, I have this to do. Or once again, I could put this up on a community page and say, interested for an easy fundraiser that you get majority of the money to stay within the fundraiser that you want, give me a shout about key fobs. So when we do these key fobs, we start with, like I said, the webbing. We used black webbing, but they make this in all different colors. And I am going to grab this one that I have over here. So we cut, I think it's about a 17-inch piece of webbing. Is it 13? I'm wrong. 13 inches piece of webbing. Thanks for correcting me, Nate. And so we cut this, but let's go over to DesignShop for a minute. So join me over here. And we are going to look at, by the way, you'll notice that I'm thumbing through my different windows of DesignShop. Just a little hint, on your computer, if you push Control-Tab, it will change you back and forth between all the different windows that you have in DesignShop. So once again, that is Control-Tab. If you have multiple windows open in DesignShop, you can flip through those really easy on Control-Tab. Now, if you're running on a different oriented computer and you're running Windows like virtual on a Mac, it might not be Control-Tab, it might be Alt-Tab, I think it is. Control-Option-Tab, something like that, but you probably know what the Control-Tab is. But for the rest of us that have been forced into a Windows world and our Mac has been taken away from us, no, I'm just kidding. Yes, use Control-Tab to get back and forth. But we're going to start with this Melco. Now what you'll see that we did, and I'm going to turn off this vector for a minute. This is just something that we have on so it simulates in the screen what our piece of webbing looks like. But what we did is we measured, if we go back to the main screen for a minute, we measured the width of our webbing, so we've got it at 1.5 inches, and then we took and said, okay, we want to make sure that Melco gets centered on either side of this. So we don't want to have to figure out over on the screen or over on the machine by doing laser trace, laser trace, laser trace. Oh, I think that's centered. We're going to take and use the laser on the machine to find the very top tip of this webbing, and that will center our design. And how we do that is, once again, let's jump back over to DesignShop. We took the design, we created it, and then we placed it. This is our design origin. So when we have hoop center on the machine, the laser is going to shine right here at this origin, okay? So all we've got to do, because we took and placed it down, and I believe I've got this set at centimeters right now. It looks like we've got it down, is this one in centimeters? Yeah, I think it is. I just have to find, like, how much in using a ruler, how much do I need it to be centered? How much on either side of the top of the E or the C. I wouldn't use the L because the L sticks up higher than the E and the C. And Nate's got something to suggest on that.
The reason I have that shape in there is to be the width of that.
Yep.
So you can get a visual.
Cool. So yeah, if you have the vector option in your software, what Nate just said is he put in this vector box to represent the thickness of the webbing. So that is actually 1.5 inches thick webbing, and it shows you that it's going to be centered. So once we have our design set up like that, now we can take and send that over to our machine. So we had somebody mention this, and we'll do another video on this, but if you have the Melco machine, the EMT16 plus EMT16 XTS or XT, you have the ability to send the design directly from DesignShop. If it's installed on the computer that Melco OS is running, you can send that design directly to the machine through that software. Now, if it's a Bravo or Bernina machine, you would have to save that design out, then go to the OS software and load it. But for today, because I'm using a Melco machine, I'm going to do File, I'm going to drop down to Machine, and I'm going to do load design. So let's do that one more time from the main screen. I've got my design all set up. I'm going to do File, I'm going to do Machine, and I'm going to do Load Design. And so what that will do is that'll take and load the design up. The design I was doing before was using the fast clamp and the 1.2 inch. Now here's another suggestion. If we go back to main screen for a minute. And actually maybe we could zoom in on the side of this. You'll notice on the fast clamps, it's kind of hard to see in this. Maybe go back to the main screen. Hope you guys aren't getting dizzy.
Top down will work.
Top down? Awesome. So you'll notice on this that these markings are in the wrong direction because I'm holding it right side up. So we should be able to, there we go. So you see those markings. Those are in centimeters, not inches. And so my Melco OS is set up in inches right now. One other thing while we have this view, when you're setting up your fast clamp, the outside of, let's see how I do this here, the outside of your block is the width that you have it set. So we get sometimes people asking, and I'm trying to get the position right for you, you know, is it the outside of the block or the inside of the block on these measurements? It's always the outside of this adjustment. And let's get this back in there. I keep wandering it back to me, but you can see that, you know, now I'm at the 23 centimeter mark on this far side. So it's always the outside of this block lining up. So let's go back to Melco OS real quick, and let me show you how to change these. So right now you see it's in 1.2 inches for my hoop setting. I'm going to go up to Tools, and this is for everybody. Bernina, you may be in the simplified user interface, and it shows you both metric and what we call imperial, so you don't have to go back and forth in the simplified interface. But if you're working in the advanced interface for Bernina, Bravo, Melco, you can go to Tools, Options, and I'm trying to use a new mouse, and it's really, really fast on me, and I can go to Measurement Units, and I can change my hoops from inches to centimeters. And so now, when I hit OK, we can see that the fast clamp is set at the 3 centimeter on screen. So I would want to set this, because I know the webbing is 13 inches long, which puts me at my 23 centimeters. I would want to go that setting. So now as we look at Melco OS, this can be confusing too sometimes to people. They go, well, where's my hoop? You know, I see these dotted lines on the side, but what are the dotted lines? They're so far away on the up, you know, the vertical on the top and bottom. I'm lost there. Well, the idea is that you have all that sew field. So if you were doing something like a horse blanket or real stiff canvas, you could sew, your sew field could be that big using the 23 centimeter clamps.
I would use the longer arms.
Yeah, and what Nate just said is if you were going to use that full sew field, you would definitely want to go to the longer arms. In the case that we're doing these key fobs, I have it set up using the medium size arms, right? So the medium. Okay, so once again, you'll see how far down Melco is from this design origin. So once again, where these horizontal and red lines line up, that is where the laser is going to be. Now, if you don't have this on your screen, in advanced mode, you'll see this design origin. See how it went away, the red lines? So just make sure that you have that engaged, and if you don't have the grid, and maybe you don't want it, you can turn it off right here in this grid, or if you want it on, you can turn it on there. In the case of the simplified view, it's really not necessary to see that design origin because you can see it with the laser on the machine, okay? So for this, just to clean this up, I'm going to leave the grid off, but I'm going to leave the origin lines on, okay? So now I need to load my material to make sure I get it in the right placement. So let's go over to the machine for a minute here, and I'm going to take my webbing with me. And so here's my piece of webbing, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to move I think I already got it moved out. Yes, I did. I've got my hoop moved out. I prefer to have the grabber in when I'm working with the clamp. It just makes it a whole lot more visible. So on the keypad, if you're not sure how to move that in, first of all, it's in the instructions of the operator's manual how to do all the keypad functions. There also is a really good shortcut on melco-service.com. If you go to the FAQ and type in keypad, they've got some really good stuff in there. But I'm going to push the adjust button and the center button, or I call it the bullseye button. So the center and adjust is going to actuate that grabber in and out, okay? And so I'm going to leave it in, and we're going to go back to our close-up for a minute. And you'll notice on the sides of the arms, the small, medium, and large arms, there is these lines, and they're on the inside. You can see it on this arm over here and this arm on the outside over here. Both sides have it on either arm, and that just allows me to make sure that I'm lining the material up correctly. So I'm going to reach back here, and I apologize that my arm's getting away. I'll try to do it from here and reach in, but you don't want to do this normally. I'm trying to just do it so that I can give you a visual of it. You would use your left hand to open the left side, your right hand to open the right side. But you grab this little guy here and you pull it out open. There also is another adjustment here, and this adjustment allows you to open, let's see if I can do this with my other hand. It allows you to open kind of the clamp up for thicker or bring it down for thinner. So clockwise is going to bring it down for thinner materials, and counterclockwise is going to open it up for thicker materials. And you'll notice inside the arms, it might be a little difficult to see on here, but there is a kind of a silicone tube rubber that's on the bottom here. And then on top, there's actually a piece of foam, high density foam, that actually will clamp that apart. Now, the top arm, sometimes people are like, wow, I've got something's loose because I have a little bit of wobble in this. When you open it up, that top arm is going to wobble a little bit, and that's totally normal. When you close it, it's going to be tight and won't wobble on you. So don't worry about that wobble. That's just part of the adjustment that you have through this screw, where if we made it rock solid, you'd have to have a tool to take it down and up, and we definitely don't want to have tools when we don't need them. So what I'm going to do is I will put the material in, and once again I'm kind of doing this a little bit backwards, trying to show you on screen, but I'm going to line it up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's take it back one more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm 6 back on there, and then I'm going to reach over and I'll do this one correctly. So I would open with my right hand on the right side. I would pull taut on with my left hand, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I would close this. And so now I can take, and let's see if the laser shows up. Let me just adjust here. There we go. Can we see that?
No,
we can't.
it's on the back side of that? Or is it?
Let's see if I open it up, if it shows up. So it's not showing up, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my material to where the laser is just barely off the material. So let's see, we're zooming in here. Thank you, Nate. Okay, now we can see it. So you'll see that the laser is on the material. So I will kind of flash it so you can see it with your eyes. What I would want to do is I would just take and move this just slightly so that the laser is just barely off that material. And it may not show, you might be seeing the glare of the laser, but that's where I want it. And so I would do on the first one, I would do a trace of it. And as you watch that trace, you're going to see that it is actually centered up. The design is centered up, and we're good to go. If I was doing multiples of these, I would more than likely, I I like to keep a whiteboard marker around my, my fast clamp, and this is a trick for you guys that have these already. I don't bend very well, so I can't see the sides of the clamp very well. So what I would do is I would take, and let me move the needle case over for a minute. Let me get it out of the way so you can see this. But I would take at that position, I would just take my marker and I would come across there so that I have my position up top, so I don't have to look on the side to do that. When I'm done, nice thing about using a whiteboard marker is then I can just take and wipe that right off the anodized red aircraft aluminum that we're using for these clamps. Okay, so I'm not going to do any sewing because we had a lot of products to go through here, but that's the setup. Now, you can use that setup from DesignShop to Melco OS to the machine for any product. So let's go through that real quick. I've got one of these beach totes, super heavy duck canvas, that if I tried to put a regular hoop through, I would break my wrists and probably leave a bruise in the material. And even on the Mighty Clamp, this stuff is so stiff that the Mighty Clamp might slide. I'm sorry, Mighty Hoop. Scott's got me messed up now. Thanks, Scott. The Mighty Hoop might actually slide on this material. You might be just fine. But I would prefer doing the clamp arms on this guy. And so let's walk through this step by step on this product once again. Because I have my grid set up in centimeters, once again, always having a good ruler in your sew area to set up designs is really important. And also, just preface this, a lot of people tell me, Mike, you take way too much time setting up designs. Well, I would prefer to take a little bit of time up front to make sure that my position is correct and give my customer a high quality product than ruin a product or give my customer a low quality product because I didn't take the time to set it up. Now, if I was doing 20 of these bags, I wouldn't do this for every bag. I would just do it for the first one. So I can see how far down I would, Alexandria is. If I wanted to, I could print out Alexandria from DesignShop, cut that out and tape it on here. And then once I have that position where I wanted it, I would take and measure down in centimeters how far down that is from the lip of the bag. So just like the webbing that we did for the keychain or the key fob, I would just measure down. In this case, it's 7 centimeters down to the top of the top line of the D is where I'm positioning this. I'm not worried about centering, but I'm looking for what is the top, physical line. If I wanted to go to the N, that's like 7.5 down. But I'm going to just go to the D or the L or the A, the upper characters, and that's 7. So now we're going to go back over to DesignShop. And in DesignShop, once again, I'm going to use that Control tab, and I already typed in Alexandria just to save ourselves some time. I can take and go up. Here's another trick a lot of people don't know about DesignShop. Is up above, just to the right of the ruler, there is this display current selected hoop. I can go in there, if I right click on it, I can go in there and I can actually find the fast clamp that I would use on that. Now once again, I'm in inches here, and I would like to be in centimeters. So same as Melco OS, I would go to Tools, Options, Measurement Units, and I would change my hoops to centimeters instead of inches. Most of all of our hoops have the metrics on them, so I primarily stick with all my softwares, DesignShop, Melco OS, in the metric setting instead of the inches or imperial setting. So it's up to you. You might be going, Mike, you're not a true American if you're not using inches. Hopefully I am a true American. I feel like I am. I just did my jury duty the other day, civil duty. I just use metric because it's easier. Everything is marked there already for me. If you're, like I want to stick with inches, go for it. So once again, the hoop is here. I can right click on it and go over here, and I am going to select, I think 17 probably would be wide enough for Alexandria. I'm just kind of taking an educated guess, and let's zoom out here. Now if you left click on the display current hoop, it's going to show you where you're at. Now Alexandria is like right on it. So I might actually go in and use the 23 just so I got a little bit of wiggle room. And I also might measure where those straps are to figure that out. So if we go back to maybe up above for a minute, if we take and measure, we're at 20.5 centimeters from the outer part of the red handle webbing. So if we did 23, that's going to give me a little bit of extra space where the clamp's not going to fall onto this raised part of the handle. So 23 sounds like a great plan. Let's go back over to DesignShop. We have DesignShop. We have the 23 centimeters selected.
While you're selecting things,
Yep.
one of the questions, and I'll have to repeat this because I'm not mic'd, is is there a correlation between the selection of the hoop in OS or DesignShop and the length of the arms?
Yeah, so the question is, Nate just asked a question. Thank you for posting questions, by the way, out there, whoever it was. Mary Ann, thank you. The question was, if we could go to the main screen for a minute.
That one.
Cool. So Mary Ann, thank you for asking the question. So the question is there any correlation to the arm length when it comes to the fast clamp? The answer is no, there isn't. We tried to make this, when we started developing it, we were like, okay, if we do it by the arm length, then we're going to have 3 times, I think we have 6 positions, 5 or 6 positions. So we're going to have 30 different clamp lengths or clamp options to select from in the software, and it seemed like it was getting too difficult. So all we did was we took the maximum length of the sew field from height, from up above to bottom. What we call the Y direction is always going to go front to back, and we said, okay, that's what we're going to make the limit for there. We're not going to care about the length of the clamp arm. That's up to you as the user. And it's also up to the material itself, because like on this material, literally it feels like, I could take and try to take and push a needle through this, and I don't think I could do it with my hands because it's so thick. This stuff here, I might be able to sew outside the arm length that I have using right now, but if you're going to use the maximum field, you would take and put on the long arms to do that. So that is up to you as a user. The only settings that we give you in the software gives you limitations left to right, and that's once again based off of how far open and closed you have your clamp, okay? So good question, keep them coming. Let's go back over to DesignShop though. All right, we said that to the top of the L, we wanted it 7 centimeters down. Now, each one of these lines here is going to give me a centimeter. So I'm going to select my text, and I'm going to drop it down. 1, 2, 3. Let's double check. Now, you may be asking, how do I double check my grid? So we talked about the hoop icon up here. If we come over to the right is show grid. If I right click on that, that's going to tell me my centimeters. And it looks like I might be measuring my centimeters just a little bit off. So they're subdivided by 2. So if I take this and turn it to 1, you'll see that it cleans up those lines so I can see a little bit better. And I can come down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, oops, and I just clicked on the A, undo, which is a very good tool to have, undo. And let me drop this. Now it may look like I'm out of the hoop, but I'll explain that here in a minute. Don't Don't worry about that quite yet. 1, 2, 6, 7. So we're close to 7, and I think we're pretty dang on there. Let me just move the design a little bit to the left. And what I'm doing, you won't see this on screen, but I'm holding the shift button and I'm pushing the left arrow, and that's just nudging the design horizontally to the left. So I get my center outline box has a box here. I want to have that split this red line. You could try to do it with your mouse, but when you're doing finite stuff, it seems to work better for me to use the shift left, right, up, or down to kind of nudge it into place. So once I have that in place, I can go ahead and sometimes a lot of people will do a save if you've already had this design saved. I've made an adjustment, and I got rid of my thumb drive, so I apologize for that error. So we'll save it on the desktop instead of my thumb drive. And let's go down here to machine. Once again, the machine load design is a Melco OS feature. And so now we'll see where our design is placed. So if we go back to the main screen, we've got our bag, and we'll use the other side of the bag. And what we'll do here is we're going to take and open that bag up, and we'll take and remove our webbing real quick. We've got our position of our clamp is set to, I'm going to close the clamp, or the trap open, was open, I closed it. We have it set out to 23, just like we did in the software. I'm going to take this guy, and I like to take the handle and I push down. Some people will take and leave it up and try to put it back into the trap back here, or the pantograph. I kind of like to have it down below so there's no chance that it folds back under on itself. If you have it down below, there's less chance of it taking in and folding in and getting sewn into it. So I pulled it down, I take and I would pull this guy on, and in this case I would just take and pull it all the way to the backstop of the actual clamping system itself, the Melco Fast Clamp. And then I would just make sure, using my fingers, that I'm fairly certain, and if you're not comfortable with your fingers, you can use a ruler, but I am pretty comfortable with my fingers. I'm just going to make sure that it's centered horizontally, and then I'm going to close my clamp up. Now, the next step is we said that we want the laser, right? So let me open that trap back up for a minute. We want that laser to be right on the lip of the bag. So we would take and move that to that position. Now, in this case, for me to get to that spot, I actually need to have the longer arms on. So we're not going to take the time to actually remove the arms, but you get the idea of how you can do placement on these products. A lot of different products you can use this on. I know folks that are doing the sides of caps, the backs of caps, using the Melco Fast Clamp. Really good idea to use for that. Front of caps, it's not going to work because there's no spot for the bill to go. So no, it won't do the front of caps. I've had people ask me, hey, will it sew through the bill of a cap? It kind of depends on the material that the bill is made out of. Some is made out of cardboard. Some of the really nice caps are made out of like more of a heavier plastic, and a needle can't penetrate that. The other thing is you have to ask yourself, would you want all the understitching that we normally see on the bottom of the hat? Probably not. So probably how you would do that is you would do a patch system. We've got a good patch video on YouTube and Facebook that walks you through how to make patches. Then you could take and put the heat seal material on it, and you could take and press it onto the hat and have the embroidery on it that way. Yeah, you know, so Nate just asked, does anybody have panel programs? And what a panel program is on a hat is you get all the pieces of the hat disassembled before they assemble the hat. And I think there's a couple people out there, a couple companies that still have it, but you have to do like hundreds of hats, and the cost and the time that it takes to get that done is kind of puts it out. So, that's an option. You can always ask the cap manufacturer, the cap distributor, do you have a panel system? And then you can sew everything flat. So you could sew the bill before it's assembled as a bill. You could sew on it and then send it back to them. And that's how a lot of them, if you see embroidery go from the bill to the crown, that's how it's done, is in a panel program. I guarantee they're not doing that unless they're using a patch on the bill and then lining it up with what they do up here. They're not sewing that as a finished hat. They're sewing that in what's called a panel. So that's how that would be done. But there's other things that you can do on the cap, sides, backs, like we talked about. If you're getting too high up on the arch of the cap, or you're trying to get round, I would really stick with the Hoop Tech back of cap clamp. Really good product for the back of hats. But if you were just doing something small right at the opening here, or doing the sides, yeah, Melco fast clamp would work great for that. So caps can be done. Dog collars. We did this actually in another video of sewing thick materials on YouTube. So once again, if you're not a member of our YouTube channel, Melco, I think it's Melco Educational or Melco Training, something like that. We'll put a link on here. Nate's looking that up for me. But we did this one earlier. So this is a dog collar. You could add embroidery, so you could go to the local pet shops and say, hey, for X amount of dollars, I would offer this, and maybe make like a little promo sign. And every week you could get some work out of that. Scott, you got a question?
So a comment.
Comment?
So don't forget, like we've mentioned, whoops, I'll turn on my mic. Don't forget, like we've mentioned before, on dog collars and nylon webbing, it really, really helps to do two things. First, pick zigzag as your underlay. That's going to make the lettering edges crisper.
Yep.
And positively use center out for the lettering, and it won't drift on the collar for you.
Yeah, so what Scott's talking about is make sure, like, even this is almost too long for center out. Probably break this into 2 sets of letterings, because if you don't, what'll happen is like the phone number will start to wave up the webbing, and let me use a piece of this black webbing, it's easier to show. But if you don't do center out, or if you don't do multiple letterings and get that, the lettering will start to waver on that webbing. Mm-hmm. So really good points. Thanks, Scott, for bringing that up.
And one more question. If you have a pocket on the side of a bag which limits the design field, would you set the design field and then determine the lettering size?
Yeah, for sure. So if we have, let me see if I can find something here. So for example, this guy here, we're getting a lunch bag that I threw over my shoulder. So this definitely will limit the physical limitation of the size of the pocket. That's a great question. Who asked that? Julie, great question. Thank you. The product is going to limit your sew field, right? Because you have to be able to get this clamped, and you have to be able to get this, my right arm is the lower arm of the machine, has to get inside. If it doesn't, it's going to sew whatever it is together. So, for example, a lot of times on pockets, they don't make them wide enough, and people sew them shut because they want them, they want the design on the pocket rather than the pocket. But back to this, yes, the limitation is the physical pocket size is going to determine how big your embroidery is, or even if it's embroiderable. So Julie, great question. I hope that answered your question. If not, post another comment, and either live or typing in, we will answer that. So good question. So yeah, Fido, we've had some folks start doing this as military name tape material. And so we've had folks start using fast clamp for that as well. I don't know if it shows very well, but it's like a camouflage material. And you would sew it, pull it over, sew it, pull it over, and then after you're done, you go through and trim it with like a certain type of machine that kind of cauterizes the edges of this. So name tapes is a good way. Well, also, if you've been to any of our showcases or trade shows, we've been doing can koozies. So these are like aluminum 12-ounce can koozies. We bought these on Alpha Broder. I'm sure there's other folks, other companies that have them. Oops, I hit my microphone. Hold on one second here. There we go. Sorry for that little racket. But can koozies are a great way. Once again, you could take a organization. They make these in multiple different colors. This one here, we actually added Melco on it. So you could see that. You could do both sides. We just did one side on this. But it's a great way for them to advertise. Another great fundraiser that people that want to support that school or that organization would be willing to buy this at a premium price for a good fundraiser. Great fundraiser. So can koozies, they can be done. Typically, they're going to be done in the closest setting, which is 3 centimeters. So it's very, very close. Your lower arm is going to be right in here. Now, if you have a conventional machine, a Melco conventional machine, that's the old red and white with the square lower arm. Unfortunately, the fast clamp is not set up for those machines. Only the round lower arms, the XT, XTSs, the Bravos of the worlds, the EMT16s, EMT16 Pluses, and the Bernina machines, the Bernina E16 machines, are set up to use this, okay?
While you're doing that,
Yep.
make sure the numbers match.
Yeah, and make sure the numbers match. And once again, it's the outside of the block, right? Outside of the block is where our numbers are going to be positioned. So as you move one, like I'm at 7 right now on my right side and 3 on my left side, that is not going to sew very well. More than likely going to give me an X tracking error if I try to use that whole 7 centimeter sew field. Make sure both sides are moved out to the right position. Good point, Nate. Thank you. Other products that we've done, this also was done using the fast clamp. And so what we did, and this is done in a previous video as well, I think it was sewn thick materials. We took, if we can go up above for a minute.
Yes.
Cool. And so I don't know if this shows, maybe like right there. We took and shaved, we used a straight razor, kind of like the one that you would use on a window to take off stickers. And we shaved the nubs off the back of this floor mat. And then we sewed Mr. Ed on it. So you could do some personalization. Once again, you could go to the local auto store or auto shops or contact car clubs and say, hey, how about doing some personalization for your club on the car mats? Great idea for, once again, another way of finding new customers and new revenue. That would be a great way to do it. So car mats can be done using that. If you're asking, gee whiz, Mike, that's awfully thick. How did you do it? Go back and watch that Sewing on Thicker Materials YouTube video, and it'll explain how to do those things. I've done, unfortunately, summer, spring, and fall are my favorite seasons. I absolutely despise it being cold, but we're going to start seeing these pop up on people's melons again here pretty soon. And so we can actually take and embroider on this lip. Let me see if I can figure out how to show that. This lip here of the stocking cap, we can do that as well on the fast clamp. So another great thing that you can do on it is a stocking cap. Karate belts. How many dojos, taekwondo schools, I think the one that's coming on, it's Gracie, help me out, Gracie is the name of the people that kind of made it famous, and it is, comment section on what martial arts Gracie is famous for. Somebody knows it out there. It's just not coming to my head, but there's another type of martial art. I believe it's a martial art. Anyways, they use these, and so you could take and offer personalization on these. My son was in Taekwondo. We bought this wood thing that, he went from white to all these different colored belts, and it would have been really cool to have that. And then in certain times, and I don't know all the answers to it, so I don't want to offend anybody, but sometimes they have like markings like this. This one here might be for the school itself. And these might be like levels of that belt. I'm not sure, so I don't want to offend anybody. But another great revenue stream is offering this. And more than likely, in your area, nobody has contacted them. They may be going to somewhere that is across the country or overseas to get these, and by the time they get them, you know, the student has already moved up 2 belts. So having someone local, having you available to advertise that might be a great way to do it. So check out Karate Belts. We bought these belts on Amazon. I'm sure there's a wholesale place out for these too. So another great product to do on the fast clamp. Jiu-Jitsu. Thank you, Rachel. You are the answer lady. I appreciate it. What else, guys? I have run out of product. I thought I had more.
What's the name of DesignShop when you said that?
Yeah. So let's go back over to DesignShop. And someone is asking, how do I flip the name? Is that the question?
When I set up a name like you did with the key fob, is there an easy way in DesignShop to invert it?
Cool. So we will take this guy here, Melco, and I will show you. There's several different ways we can do it. The first one is there's these little red arrows down here at the bottom, and I can take and click on both of them.
Oh,
That's not what they're asking?
so that it sews center out.
Oh, so it sews center out.
It was an additional comment, like 3 comments down.
Ah,
Where is that?
okay, so let's go back to Alexandria. And what we're going to do is we'll double click on our lettering. So the question is how do I get my lettering to sew center out? So when I'm in my lettering properties window, I am going to see my horizontal stitch order. And by default, it's going to go left to right, kind of how we write, right? It could go right to left. And then this very last one is center out. So if I select that guy and I hit the play button, let's just slow this guy down just a little bit here. This also is kind of unique that a lot of people don't realize is this shows you how it's going to sew out. So it shows you that it's going to sew from the center out now and do that. So maybe 20 was probably a good number. And so you can change that number. The lower it is, the slower it goes. The higher it is, the higher it goes. And you can also take and grab this guy here, and you can kind of zoom through it, which is kind of fun too. So that is how you do center out. Now, if you're trying to position this design upside down, there's a couple different ways you could do it. In the property window, when we're still in there, we can go to, is it scale, guys? Help me out on this one, because I don't use this one very often.
So you have to cancel out of that. Right-click on the project itself.
Okay, so I would right-click on the project
Go to project.
and go to project, and then I would take and I could go to,
I was lying to you.
well, let me tell you how I do it. I use these little red arrows down here. So I would click on it, the vertical and the horizontal once each, and that can do it. Another way that you could do it is if you click on one of those boxes, it allows you to flip it upside down. And I think if you hold the Alt, it's the Control, is it?
I didn't think there was any.
Oh, this one doesn't have a snap. So you got to just make sure that you put it back in line. So you see how I get a little crooked doing that. That's why I would stick with those arrows down at the bottom. But you get the idea. There's several different ways.
Yeah, that's what I do is W or H.
W or H?
At the bottom,
Click on it.
It has rotate in there, down.
Oh, W or H.
Yeah, like size.
Ah, so that's another way. So let's undo what I just did and get that back to where it was. So I just learned another way you could do it. So if you click on either the W or the H, I just got told, that's a left click, you can take and just rotate this 180 degrees. Isn't that pretty slick? And so now if you hit tab or you come off of it, it will flip it upside down. So cool, I learned something new today.
And why would you sew center out?
So once again, the question is, and let's go back to the main screen. If you're doing any kind of thinner material that's going to have some potential flex, so when clamping, we're not constraining the material both in the vertical and the horizontal. We're only handling it or holding it in place on two sides. So the material, like a flag in the wind, may waver when you're sewing on it. So the more that you can do center out, and I would kind of limit that. My idea is probably, depending on the material I'm sewing, maybe anywhere between 4 to 6 characters to either side before I would break it up and do another chunk center out. If it's real thick webbing, you might be okay, or if it's Carmat, it's not going to waver at all. But that's why you would want to sew center out, is so that you get a straight line, because if you start, if it's, let's say we're sewing Mississippi, and we started with the M, the I on this webbing here is not going to end up straight. It's going to end up wavering on that webbing like this. So that's why you would want to sew center out. Another question?
So a question is, when would we want to use center out? Well, pretty much always, right?
It's like Groundhog's Day.
A little bit.
Oh, did you
Okay.
ask that one?
He just
I
answered.
was reading. Okay. Sorry.
It's all good. So yeah, center out once again, so you can kind of constrain that material and keep everything straight. Once again, because we're not holding that material all on all 4 sides. That's why you would want to sew center out. So other questions?
Yep.
Cool. All right. So guys, it's been wonderful. I got one last thing for you, and this is kind of a special treat. Right now, if you don't own the Fast Clamp, normally the Fast Clamp price is $890. This month, it's on special for $699. And because we're doing this on Facebook Live today, to the end of the day, Friday, and I was told to do dates on this, so August 10th, 2019, to the end of the day, August 10th, 2019, we will throw an extra $50 off. So if you go to Shop Melco right now, you can get the Melco Fast Clamp for $649.99. Yeah, and I believe that's posted on Facebook as well. That price is good through the end of the day, August 10th, 2019. So once again, I just want to tell you thank you. Back to school season, this is a great time to pick up new business, additional business. Try to solidify the year so that you don't have really, really peak times and really, really slow times. It might be some of that you can start evening out, getting some new customers, and really introduce some new products, and get out there and sell yourself. Don't wait for the customer to come to you. Be proactive. Once again, next week we'll be talking about DesignShop Pro Plus, the Alphabet Editor tool in DesignShop Pro Plus, and the Bird's Nest tool from Adira. Check that out. And I think we have one more thing.
So just, we've talked about it in very specific terms, but why did we offset from the origin in DesignShop?
Once again, so the question is why did we offset from origin in DesignShop? You know, why do that? The idea is that if you don't do that, when you take the design over to the machine, really the only thing that you have to kind of visually see where the design's going to go is a laser trace to see that, or using Design Origin in a different way than we used it. So what we're trying to do is we're using the laser pointer. If you watch earlier in this video, we discuss it, but we're using that origin spot of the laser on the machine to physically line up a location on the product that we're sewing, be it a pocket, be it webbing, so that we know that it's going to be centered, and we know that it's going to be sewn right. So that's why the offset. You don't have to do that, but I prefer it, especially if I'm going to do multiples of the same thing. Then I can just hit that spot every single time instead of having to do a trace and losing that time, because the more the needle moves up and down, the more money we make, right? Any other questions? Wonderful. Thank you again for being a Melco customer. If there's anything we can help with, give us a shout. Have a great day.